Hi, I'm Buddy. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you, AA. Very honored and a little excited to be asked to speak at a meeting on Founders Day weekend. For you people who are new, I don't know if you're new to AA or new to this meeting, but yesterday was our 81st anniversary for Alcoholics Anonymous. And so that's a pretty cool deal to me. Where to start? I guess the beginning. I'm one of 8 Irish Catholic Union Democrat liberal kids brought up on Colfax Street in South Providence. Attended St. Michael's Parish. 7 of us were Irish twins. We took up St. Michael's from 1st to 7th grade. 4 boys, 4 girls. I'm the baby boy. Not a lot of things growing up, but a lot of love in my house. My mom was a saint. I woke up to her singing every morning. Whatever holiday it was, whether it was Peter Cottontail or Danny Boy, whatever the holiday was, that's, and she slaved for us kids. She slaved her whole life. And she passed, 28 years ago. And she died a slow death of cancer. And on my 5-year anniversary, my sisters told me that, Bud, Mom prayed to God that she would suffer. Like 8 kids isn't enough suffering, but she did. She was that strong of a woman. And she asked to God to suffer that 2 of her children, me and my sister Sue, would get sober. Ooh, glad I could say that without getting a golf ball in my throat. But, so I picked up, to sum it up, I drank and did other things for 30 years. In my first 10 years, I'm 60 years old, so my first 10 years, there was nothing but fun. You know what I mean? Hallucinogenics were around then. It was just, you know what I mean? It was just fun. It was like I didn't start doing it to fit in. Coming from a big family, I didn't have those things. I was a pretty decent athlete. I was a pretty decent student, and it was just my path. And then my dad died when I was 17. Me and my mom walked in on him she was a waitress and I was a short order cook at 17 at IHOP. And we got a ride home that night and there was cops all around my house and my dad was dead on the floor at 48 of a massive heart attack and left my mom with 7 of us still in the house. And after that, I quit school that year. I got mad at the world and I started doing other things that always believed in heaven and hell, and that's the earliest I can remember of any remorse or guilt setting in with me because of my drinking and other things. So I said, my dad surely is in heaven, and I'm a junior, and he's not proud of what I'm doing. I got to get away from these guys, and I got to go in the Army, and that's what I did. And I didn't know nothing about our illness, so I didn't know that the alcoholic got off the bus at Fort Dix, New Jersey. I didn't know that. And, I did my time, and I've been blessed my whole life, could never see it. I went in 2 months after the Vietnam was over. There were still troops there, but the war was over, I believe, in April or May, I believe, and I went in July, 20 days after my 18th birthday. And I got out, and I went to hanging on the corner where I grew up in the inner city in Providence, South Providence, and I ended up meeting this beautiful Puerto Rican girl who drank like I did. And out of that, we ended up I have 3 beautiful Irican children. And I have 4 gorgeous grandchildren now. I just became a grandfather again 2 days ago to Godric Ray. And he's adorable. Let me see. The first 10 years was all fun. Second 10 years was fun and some trouble. Last 10 years was all trouble. I went to my one and only rehab in 1986, Edge Hill in Newport, Rhode Island. I worked on the railroad, and I went in for another substance because married to one of the older Spanish, Puerto Rican families in Providence, one of the first to get there. I became Tony Montana in my sick head. And it was her and her family's fault. It wasn't my fault. So I went away to get help for that. And I'm sitting there, and the counselor asked me if I was, he said, I'm surprised you're not an alcoholic, because most people in here are alcoholic too. And I'm like, yeah, good for them, whatever. And very arrogant. And she said, I see you're not an alcoholic. Yep. She said, well, do you drink? Oh, yeah. And I lied. I said, yeah, a six-pack, maybe a weekend, maybe a couple six-packs. Okay. And then she says, I'll never forget this, because he doesn't want me to, apparently. She said, almost verbatim, do you ever black out? And I said, yeah, sometimes when I stand up quick. And she said, honest to God, that's what I said. He said, oh, no, that's not what I mean. I mean, when you drink, do you remember what you did the next day? And I looked at her like she had two heads, and like, what kind of a stupid question is that? Like, no, who remembers the next day? That's really, I thought that was normal. It's just the way it was. I grew up in an Irish household where you could drink till the cows come home. You could make all kind of messes. Oh, no, that's not what he said. Oh, no, that's not what he did. And as long as you didn't do drugs like the trolls down the street at the park, as long as you didn't do that, it was okay. So I was total denial. I had already buried my oldest brother at 29. He died in our neighborhood of drunk driving. He lived a god-awful alcoholic life. He had his last rites read to him 3 times. I remember driving him up to Doctor's Hospital at the time up in Worcester, sitting with him in the bar. He just said he had impregnated a gangster's daughter, and they made her go away to a convent or something like that and have the baby in adoption, and they put a contract on my brother's life. And because of someone else in the family, they squashed that. But that really kind of like, after that, I clearly remember that. He was 16, and he was just like, he never had no peace after that. So he died at 29. I'm in this Edge Hill, and I leave. I do my 30 days, and I leave. And I go to the other fellowship, because I'm 30 years old, and going to dances. And I come to AA, and you people with like this color hair are saying, all of these things, and I'm saying, well, you guys belong in here because you probably put your families through hell enough already, and you take up all the good seats in the bar anyway. And you young people hugging each other, you wusses obviously have no life, but it's a good thing that you have a place to come and tell your bullshit stories. See you later, I'm out of here, I got this. The true arrogance of an alcoholic mind. I didn't know anything about an alcoholic, even having buried a brother. An alcoholic to me was the guy I used to walk by up on Broad Street as a kid, literally in the alley, the textbook one, and people like my brother. And I didn't fit that description. So I went out, and you'll hear around AA, like, just your hands, by staying sober, your hands will enable you to get things. So now I was no longer the black sheep of the family. I too was able to buy a house in the suburb, still in Providence, but right next to the next town, at Tree Line Street. And, I don't know nothing about alcoholism. And so I got the house, and I got the good job on the railroad, and now I have 3 children, and I'm putting a pool in the backyard, and one day I say, it'd be nice to have one of those new beers they got, Old Duels, because I really didn't like getting drunk. I just loved the taste. So that's what I did. I went and bought a 6-rack of Old Duels. That's when it first came out. Then it was 86, or around 90, whatever. And I put in the freezer, and I'm working up a sweat in the yard. I come in, I wolf them down, boom. A short time later, it's not important, it's too long, I can't remember, I don't know if it's a week, a month, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to Boston every day to work, and I'm coming home with a 6-rack of Old Duels. One of them opened, and I'm half in the bag. I didn't know then what I know today, that non-alcoholic beverages are for non-alcoholics, they're not for us. And then having done this work, I realized that, like, in Rhode Island, it might even be the state drink, it's coffee milk. I don't know if they have it here, but I love coffee milk. But I don't drink 30 of them a day. So I know today I definitely drank for the effect. So, to get to the chase, I guess, through God's grace, in the last 10 years, like I said, was all trouble. I was no longer, so after going from the old duels to the real deal, the house was gone within 6 months. My 2 daughters stayed with her. My son came with me because he was like 15. We got a bachelor pad up Smith Hill and a 3-decker, and went on like that for, I don't know, like 4 years or more, hell, whatever. And then in '99, I saw my nephew through marriage. He married my niece, who was left by my brother that died, and Michelle. And he'd worked. We got him on the railroad, and him and I worked together on the last shift, 10 to 6 shift up in Boston. Which, if you're drinking, it was awesome, which I was at that time. And we would go to Foley's right over by, somewhere over there, right by South Station. It was like an after-hours place. They stayed, drinking. So I knew the way he was. And I seen him on Halloween, and I hadn't seen him in about a year. I had left the railroad before I got fired. I had a city of Providence job at the same time. I'm a recreation director, and it was at a elementary school. And on the weekends, I was turning it into a Guatemalan nightclub. Honest, for money, for beer money. For drinking money. They paid me like $150, and they'd bring up the disco ball in the middle and everything. And they had on telephone poles all like on the street in Providence, Manton Avenue, the Spanish neighborhood, about this band coming from New York. And the band literally came from New York, and it was just nuts. So I resigned from that job before I embarrassed my politician friend. And I'm unemployed, and my only prayer to God at that time, that's when my scorecard read 0 out there, when I couldn't pray to God no more. That was my low point in my life. And so I seen him on Halloween. Geez, Lou, you look great. What have you been doing, working out? He said, no, buddy, I've been going to AA. And he just told me this a couple of days ago. I didn't remember his reply, but he said that I told him, that's good, Lou. I used to go there. That's really good. Keep going there. And that was it. And I went, and so that was Halloween. And my sobriety date is February 24th of '99. So he would come by my house from Halloween until that time, and he'd say, and it'd be, hey, bud, what are you doing? And I'd go to the window, not much, Lou. All right, bud, I'm just cutting through, just seeing how you're doing. I didn't know what he was doing. I know now. And he kept coming by. And then on this day, February 24th, he'd come by, and he said, hey, bud, you want to go grab a lunch? And he's the only person on the planet I would have went to lunch with at that time, because I just felt like the biggest piece of poop on the planet, And so he says, yeah, all right, bud, let me park the car. I said, all right, Lou, let me hop in the shower. So he came up, and I know Louis probably snooped around, and there was nothing in there. Me, the cockroaches, and that was it. You know what I mean? Jeans and nothing. No big deal. We continued to settle for less, and I did. So he takes me, we go to lunch, takes me to his house. And he gives me a big bag full of clothes. Or he said, bud, these are all stuff I got to get rid of. You want any of them? And I said, like a good alcoholic addict. I said, yeah, I'll take them all, Lou. And I did. I took the whole bag. And at around 5 o'clock, he said, well, bud, I got to go. I go to a meeting tonight. A step meeting, a 12 and 12 meeting in downtown at St. Francis Chapel. It was a men's meeting, and they all had suits and ties on, and gold watches and alligator shoes. And I wanted to be there like I wanted a root canal, because I had a very bad attitude. I didn't like those kind of people at all. Very sick. So anyway, and I'm mad at him the whole time that he took me to a meeting like this. He should know. He knows me. I don't like people like this. But I go, and that was that. And my life got real good real quick. I got on my knees because I heard somebody say it. And all of these things happened to me. People used to bust my chops saying, buddy, can you ask God for this for me? Can you ask God for that? Because when these things would happen, I would talk about it in a meeting. And like my daughter was a junior, my oldest daughter, Socorro, and she's, I don't know, 5'8", I don't know. She's not like Amazon woman, but she's tall, I guess, played basketball. And I said, honey, you going to the prom? Yeah, Dad, but I ain't going with nobody shorter than me. I said, all right, honey. And I'm inside, I'm like dying, because she lived out my life. She played 4 years college ball. She just, two-sport all-state athlete. Anyway, so I'm praying for like a couple of months now. Oh God, please, oh God, please, oh God, please, oh God, please. So then one day, I say, all right, I'm going to do what these people say. God, I'll accept your will, whatever it is, for the dance. And that day, sure enough, I go to see her after school. Dad, guess what? The hunk of the school, a kid who had a 4-year scholarship to Harvard, I think, on an academic and track, asked her to the prom. So I would say that in a meeting. I got a job at the university where she played basketball as the manager of the gym. I got paid to watch my daughter practice, I worked middle shift, practice and play basketball. Unbelievable. Goosebumps. So I would say these things in the meetings. And, but at any rate, life went on like that, and it was grand for 3.5 years. And around the 4th year, oh, you lovely people, I started getting sick of. And I, too, never missed a meeting. And I remember coming early, and people would say, yeah, I had a heart attack, and I still didn't drink. Yeah, I had cancer, and I didn't drink. And I'm like, I said to Lou, my nephew, I said, frig that, I get the big C, I'm drinking. And I clearly remember that. In a 4-year sober, I had cancer. You know what I mean? I had stage 3 cancer. It was very aggressive. It was prostate, but it was very aggressive. They had to take it out. I never thought about a drink. So God doing for me, God's grace. It is my experience. So that's a 4 years, still going to meetings. That's the only time I missed a meeting. 4 years was when I had the cancer. And then people came to my house and put meetings on. And then I got out. At 4.5 years sober, my daughter-in-law calls me up. And she has given me 2 gorgeous grandchildren. Ashley's 18 now, and Nicholas is 13. And she said, Bud, my son took the money out of the bank account, the bank card, took a couple thousand, and went on a crack run. And I said, all right, Jess. So he comes knocking on my door. And I go downstairs, and I open up the door, and I see him. And I hate to say this, but there's no kids here, but, I have to remind myself this is exactly what I said and how I said it. I opened up the door, and they used to call me the mayor of AA in Providence because of Buddy Cianci, the mayor, and my last initial is C, and I was told put my hand up to the newcomer, so I did that to the extreme. So everybody in Rhode Island, being a small state, knew me because I was active and very happy, you know what I mean, pretty much. So the best the mayor of AA could do, when my son opened the door, I looked at him in total disgust, and I said, you piece of shit. And I shut the door. So I didn't know then what I know now is that fear comes out of me sideways, like most people, my experience. So if that wasn't bad enough, try to go to sleep 4.5 years without a drink, not knowing why I did that. And I didn't have a clue. I know today it's because I didn't want to be standing over him at Russell Boyle's. So then God and loving me like he does, he put another little angel in my path, Peg, who's in the big meeting in the sky with 41 years, and she was 77 years old. She was 37 years sober. She had just moved from Wellesley to near my home group in Rhode Island. She had a master's degree in the field of alcoholism and drug addiction, and she ran a women's rehab in Boston City Hospital, I believe, as the director for 25 years. And she went to a lovely meeting in New Hampshire with her daughter, who's also in the program, one of these meetings. And she said they have one in Attleboro, right over the line from Rhode Island. Wednesday nights, would I like to go? And I said, yeah, sure, Peg. Because she was a guy's lady. She was a total bitch, she would say, to all women in her life. And until coming here and doing this. And so I said, yeah, sure, Peg, and I went. I heard things I had never heard before consistently in the whole room from people. And I heard the format, like we ask you to listen, and there's 2 other people there. Anybody new or to new to this meeting? I put I'm Buddy, I'm from Providence, the mayor. And there was these 2 other people there, a husband and wife from Warwick. And I knew that they hadn't done this work, but somehow the man who's my sponsor, he was the chairperson, and he's 81 now, so he was hard of hearing back then. And so the wife winged it. He was like, you could hear him, like he couldn't hear it, and she was winging it. You know what I mean? She hadn't done the work, and she said, and then the husband, he totally dropped the ball, and he had to stop him. Excuse me, we would ask that you listen. So at any rate, So that's the guy who has to be my sponsor, basically because he had big blue eyes and I knew he was Irish and that's how sick I was. So I asked him, and he was like an uncle figure. So I asked him right at that meeting at the end. But while I'm sitting there, I'm looking at these two people. I am killing them. I'm like, you friggin' morons. Didn't you hear what they said? Now all of these people are going to think I'm a jerk like you because I'm from Rhode Island. You know what I mean? So it was crazy. And then, and like, what I heard at this meeting in this one night, I was like Charlton Heston in Planet of the Apes when he sees the Statue of Liberty. Damn you all to hell! I was mentally insane resentment with the whole state of Rhode Island. AA, and the longer you were sober, the more I was pissed off at you for giving me all of this bull crap for 4.5 years. When these people, some of them 25 years old, not many, but a couple, and they're articulating everything that's going on in my cage. Now, granted, as soon as I left that meeting, I couldn't tell you one thing they said, but I knew what they were saying was, the kind of things that give me goosebumps like I got now. And so I went through, I met my sponsor at the state line right on 95 at the Home Depot parking lot there on 95 in Attleboro. Did the readings, did my 4-step, said the prayer for my list of names, and I got names. I felt God right away because there was names down there I just couldn't believe. Like the kid who stole my Halloween bag when I was 7. Now, did he make me become an alcoholic? Absolutely not. Has nothing to do with it. It's God, I know, wants to show Buddy who Buddy is. And come to find out, my experience, which is all that I have, is that, I have the same defects of character as Mother Teresa and Pope Francis. I'm not unique because I'm an alcoholic. But when the poop fairy comes in my life, I would run to drugs or alcohol, mostly alcohol, for relief. And I've learned, one of the many spiritual awakenings I've received from God is that, hey, my neighbor to the right of me and my neighbor to the left of me, if they're not an alcoholic, when the poop fairy comes in their life, because the poop fairy comes in everybody's life, one time or another, if they're not running to a God of their understanding, they're running to the Foxy Lady or to the Lincoln Casino or Foxwoods, and the ones on my left, they're running for the Coach or the Gucci or the Harley Davidson, and that's just for me. I'm not unique because I'm an alcoholic, but what I do for relief is very detrimental, not only to me, but those who love me, because it says on page 18, like a dagger. It's talking about when a man has cancer, everybody is sorry for him, but not so with the alcoholic. For with us, the tornado, we annihilate. With this illness, brings upon fierce resentment, financial insecurity, disgusted friends and relatives, and then this is the kicker for me, and warped lives, which is a nice way of saying effed up lives, of blameless children. And my 3 adult children have every alcoholic ism that I have. And only one of them, my son, is one of us. My 2 daughters, they despise it. So, this absolutely life-changing. You know what I mean? I can't believe like where I am today. I really, I just can't believe it. I was talking to a couple of people I wrote up with about amends. I said neither one is there yet, but I was just sharing an experience with an amends that I had, like with my first cousin. We grew up together, and I got him a job on the railroad, and we went on strike. This railroad over here, the P&W, and we went on strike in 1982, and he crossed the line. And I never spoke to him until my brother passed 10 years ago at the collation. And we're at the table together. He's next to me, and I said, "Hey, cuz, I would like to, come by your house and talk to you, about our past, about my past, if that would be okay." And he said, "Sure, cousin, sure." He was happy about that. And then his wife comes over and she says, "Did you tell him?" And he said, "Nance, tell him, Nance, like, be quiet." And she says, "Well, if you're not going to tell him, I'll tell him. Your cousin, buddy, I don't think you know, but he didn't drink for 20 years, and no AA, nothing. He just quit drinking. And he drank 2 weeks ago, and it was not good." And so I was saying how, like, God uses us for, like, uses me anyway for, I have no clue. So I go to his house to make the amends, and that's what I call a puke of amends. I had some real puke of amends, and the puke was literally like right here. And I'm riding around the block saying every Catholic prayer I know, every prayer in AA, and still, that's when the promises, and I recognize my fear in my fourth step, and talked about the fear prayer and such after my fifth step about with my son. That's always been my biggest fear, but it really didn't come. It didn't leave until I made those puke of amends, just like it says in the promises. And so I knock on the door and I walk in, and he says, "Come on in, cousin. I got some sandwiches in the kitchen." I'm like, "All right." And I go in there, and it's his wife and his 3 adult children who I had never met. And that was that. And it was good. You know what I mean? And my experience with amends, like, I loved after my fifth step. That hour with God, and it was great to know that I accomplished something. But my experience with the puke of amends, unbelievable. You know what I mean? Just like unbelievable, because that was one of my biggest fears. I had to address these fears. Fear run my life, like my experience runs most. That's why it's in the good book on about every page. But this process for you people who are new here, I don't know if this is your first meeting or not, but I kind of call a spade, and this is what Alcoholics Anonymous was intended to be. I love history, and I don't know a whole lot of AA history, but I do know some. And I do know, like, in our literature, in the big book, the foreword to the second edition, it says up until like 1955, I believe, 50% of the people who came here stayed. And then out of the remaining 50, 25% of them after relapsing came back, and many of them stayed. So even if you say 1% of them, 25 stayed, it's 51, which is today, it's not that great. And, like I was trying to tell somebody the other day, the guy who brought me into AA, who's never done the steps, and it's quite evident. I just went to Florida with them for 8 days. It was kind of like hell. But I knew that. I knew it was going to be that. It wasn't so much hell for me as it was just watching him in hell, 18 years sober. It was like heartbreaking. I mean, he didn't relax for 5 minutes. But at any rate, trying to tell him, I said, so-and-so, look, when AA started, you weren't allowed to speak in a meeting unless you had recovered through the steps. That was the big book. There was only one book. That's it. And what's happened? Well, I'm blessed to have a house, to live in Florida, and that's a whole other story because I didn't have nothing. Guy in AA called me up and said, "Hey, buddy, I'd like to help you buy a house." I was like, "What?" But that's a whole other story for another day. But at any rate, there's a guy down there, Dave McDermott. He does work for the GSO in New York with archive stuff, and he's got all of these slides every Thursday. I go to a meeting. He has all of this history stuff. But he said that, well, buddy, how it changed was because I had heard in Big Book Step Study somewhere that in 1955 it changed. The Grapevine suggested to start a new type of meeting called a discussion meeting, and that happened. And then, but he said, well, no, buddy, actually it was 1953. They started a 12 noon discussion meeting in the GSO office in New York because Bill W. wasn't going to meetings. So they thought if they started a meeting right there, then maybe he would go, and he didn't go to that one either. But at any rate, that's like, so then, in Alcoholics, our biggest deal is we come in here, my experience, I know me, and many I've been blessed to work with, we're very unique. And we have a constant battle with basically God and our ego, you know what I mean? And so we come in here, and I knew everything when I came in here. I even knew what a blackout was, you know what I mean? have all the answers. So I believe that that is what happened, but I do believe now it's making a big comeback, I guess. I was just blessed to, to come here. And so me and Peg came, and I used to come up to Worcester years ago with a purple bus. It was painted Bonnie purple. Me and my son painted it by hand with a roller. This guy, a friend of mine, he owned a couple of sober houses, and he bought a bus from the Attleboro or something, one of them small buses that hold like 21 people. And so then after we painted it Bonnie purple, he sent it to this guy in Rhode Island, and for like $1,500, he hand painted all of these sayings that I had handed him on a piece of paper from the big book, like in Stop It, where it's a school bus, it would say like, "Who are you to say there is no God?" And on the back it said, "Buddy's Big Book Bus stops at all Big Book Step Study meetings." And like the whole, I remember coming up to here on a Monday night, I think the meeting was, and the Mass State Troopers are pulling next to us, and they're reading them all, and they're laughing, and they're waving to us. And, we just had a ball. I mean, but yeah, like you new people, the steps are really not secondary. It's not the intention, and that's why today the amount of people that don't stay, is because the steps, like I haven't asked to stay away from a drink or drug since I've done these steps. Instead, I follow the directions that they suggest, which has been working great for me for 13 years. I ask them to take away all of these things that's going to lead me up to a drink. Taking a drink or whatever, that's the last part of the relapse. You know what I mean? I'm going to get spiritually sick first. I'm going to start hating. I'm going to stop praying. And, I just can't do that. And basically after 7 years of coming to Big Book Step Study, being very active in it, being blessed to work with quite a few people, I started getting stale spiritually. Something was wrong. So I went to my spiritual advisor, my pastor, Father James, and, he told me I might want to consider reading the good book, as Dr. Bob called it. And I had no clue. I said, "Okay, where do I start? At page 1? He said, "No, bud, why don't you start with these 4 guys and read a chapter a day and that." I said, "Okay." And in my sick head, I'm saying, "No, a chapter a day. I'm not trying to become a priest. What the hell? I ain't got to." Like a real piece of work. And then I go to Florida, and I'm convincing myself they don't have no Catholic Bibles down there because it's not Catholic. There's tons of Catholic churches and Catholics down there. There was only one. He told me which one to buy, the New American Catholic Version, whatever. It's in today's language, and I buy that. And I'm whining about the price, even though I got 30 pairs of sneakers. Then I open it up to where he tells me to, and I see that a chapter is like 1 page, and I'm like, idiot. But so that really got me out of my spiritual funk, because my experience, again, which is all I have, this book introduced me to the original book. That's for me, and where all of these 12 principles came from anyway. And so, I'm an alcoholic. We all suffer the illness of we want more. So I've tasted the good tastes, and I want all I can get. I'm not trying to walk on water. But, when I had cancer, in my faith, we have certain sacraments, and I had one called the anointing of the ill, and something happened to me. And I'd be more than happy to talk to you outside the meeting, because I respect these halls. You know what I mean? The gods may be different. I'm with a friend who's Jewish today, so, you know what I mean? So I always try to keep what I can do. I don't know what other people do, but I try to keep them separate. But for you new people, like I say, you can sit, on page 30 in step 1, the first step of More About Alcoholism, on the bottom of the page. In my experience, steps 1, 2, and 3 were do now, understand later. And, but on that first page, it says, "We are convinced that men like us are in the grip of a progressive illness." What kind of an illness do we have? You don't hear it maybe too much in the halls, but you hear it a lot in rehabs and such. We have a threefold illness, right? It's mental, physical, and spiritual. So it says we're in the grip of a progressive illness, which means over any considerable period of time, we get worse, never better. So I experienced that. 4.5 years sober, the mayor of AA, by sitting in a chair every day for 4 years, and then when I got that's the best I could do. So I know today what that means. I was addressing one component of my 3-component illness. I was addressing the physical part. I was coming to meetings and I wasn't putting a drink or a drug in my body for a day at a time. But mentally and spiritually, I was asking for God in the morning and thanking Him at night, and the rest of the day I was still living like the good fellas, in all honesty. Smashing cars and taking off. Oh, just it's the same crazy behavior as I had before, except for selling illegal things. That's the only thing that I didn't do. I just can't, people, when I first got this and go to Rhode Island, shunned a little bit, I guess, whatever, something like that. And then these people from Massachusetts, buddy, you got to start one in Rhode Island. I'm like, yeah, when I'm done. No, buddy, you got to start it now. So after me and Peg were writing for about 6 months, we started that meeting, which in hindsight was a good thing, because her and I were not allowed to speak. They would say, oh, buddy's starting the meeting, he's the only one who can speak, him and his Massachusetts friends. So it was good, so Peg and I didn't get to speak, and all of these people from Massachusetts came, to support us, to speak. You know what I mean? Denise has been, there's been a lot of people, and Joe's been there. The people in this room, they came from down the Cape to support us. So that was a good thing. We brought it to Rhode Island, and when I moved to Florida, Peg had died, and then when I moved to Florida, it kind of it dissipated. And so I moved to Florida. I was telling Joe, Mike before the meeting, that when I was moving down there, a friend of mine from the Norton meeting, she says, buddy, where you moving? I said, near Clearwater. She said, oh, that's wasteland over there. I'm thinking, what? No, it ain't. No. There's nice buildings. I'm thinking like waste. She said, oh, no, that's not what I mean. There's no Big Book step studies down there, buddy. So I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of like a pompous statement to make, but, whatever. But I went down there, and when you go from this, you're very blessed, you know what I mean? Massachusetts is blessed. It's where it came from, like when they started in, 78 or whatever, down in Hyannis, and there's a lot of them here. And, I thought I would be good, and I was good because I was working with a ton of people, you know what I mean, as soon as I got down there, and that's why I knew that's where I was supposed to be. I didn't go down there to move there. I went there on vacation. I ended up doing quite a few third steps with people, and it was a no-brainer. I knew that's where God wanted me to be. I was there for 6 years, and I come back, and I know now this is where God wants me to be. My oldest daughter's a single mom. I'm helping her. I'm a new granddad again. I truly, when they say a day at a time, I count my blessings, and I say with the utmost humility and God's grace that I can do that pretty decently. I'm very happy where I am right now. And that day at a time for me, it's a day at a time to keep those 4 character defects at bay. You know what I mean? Because they're going to be with me till the day that I die. They're human defects of character. So when I say that 7-step prayer, for me, my Creator, I'm now willing you have all of me, the good and the bad. I learned in the 4th and 5th, I got good things and not so good things. I now pray that you remove from me every single defect of character, which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and to my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding, which is, basically to go out to live life doing the latter steps. So when I say that for me, I'm just asking God, chances are Buddy's going to do a butthead thing today. You know what I mean? It could be flip somebody off, or, you know what I mean? In all honesty, some chances are pretty high that I could mess up. Okay? But I'm okay with that, not like totally okay, but that's okay. I can talk to God about that at the end of the day. I'm asking Him to remove any defect of character, my selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, or fear that's going to stand in the way of me being a servant for God. So when somebody asks me if I could, go do step work, I'm saying, and I want to make up a lie because I want to go home and watch the NBA or NFL or something. You know what I mean? Or just things like this. I don't know how long I've been going, so I'm just going to end by saying this. I can't. People say there's a lot of different ways to do the steps. That's totally false. It says very clearly on 95, we have no monopoly on God, semicolon. We merely have an, singular, because it's for, we have an approach that worked for us. This is it. If your candidate finds some other way to find the power grade in, we suggest that you encourage him and let it shake hands, let them be friends, because you still have a lot in common. And I had that experience. A guy I was working with, Angry Paul, he wanted to do an Oprah book. And he comes up to me and he says, buddy, he says, I'm reading this Oprah book, and it's a lot like this book. He says, I really like it a lot. And I said, oh, that's good, Paul. He said, what do you think about that? I said, Paul, I told you it's irrelevant. I try not to think. I'm strictly by the book. I said, but I do know where it mentions that in the book. So I told him that. I said, so with that being said, Paul, I would encourage you to go continue doing your Oprah book. And he says, see it? I knew that. I knew it. My sponsor, his sponsor, they all told me I couldn't do that. No way. You're the only one. I said, hey, look, I know your sponsor and his sponsor and da-da-da-da. They're good guys. They're just passing to you what was passed on to them. So people who haven't been blessed with this path, I know for a fact, I'm no better than them. It's just, but people say, no promoting. I really don't care too much what people say, because to me, I could hear, just don't drink and go to meetings, and I could coin that as being promoting. So I promote, get busy for yourself. That's what I promote. Because no human, Sigmund Freud said the Irish are impervious to psychoanalysis, but that's only because he never went to an AA meeting. You know what I mean? If he'd gone to an AA meeting, he'd know we're all beyond human aid. I don't know. I'm just happy that there was like 4 or 5 newcomers here today. This is a different format. You really want to come back next Saturday and see what they do. And my experience is no one's going to pressure, no one's going to chase you out and tell you they're going to be your sponsor or nothing like that. But if you do want the help, you'll see the hands being raised. And it's just an absolute gift. That's all I can say. I could talk about AA for hours, but I know it's Saturday and we all got stuff to do. So that's it.